The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is the fifth game in the Legend of Zelda series. It's the first Legend of Zelda game with 3D graphics and the first on Nintendo 64. It was released in Japan and North America in November 1998, Europe and Australia later that year by a month. Ocarina of Time was followed by the direct sequel, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, in 2000. There's a certain legacy behind the game as it's won multiple polls as best of all time. MatthewMatosis states in his review, well, you should watch it. All of it. To say what he had to say, to see what he had to say as a first-hand source is better. But he said that the game basically what he had to say was that the game manages to fail in its own legacy. I was sort of like MatthewMatosis, except a little bit more extreme. Growing up, I sort of thought that Ocarina of Time being the greatest game of all time was a bit of a weird title. One, it's a popularity contest. Two, it's decided by a hundredth of a percent. Three, there's just no real soul in deciding that way opposed to actually analyzing. Jonathan Blow said it's better to get something with 50% critical reception, a cult following, rather than a game that pleases everyone. Something that's pleasing everyone is probably doing something wrong. Everyone can't be happy. I enjoyed the game, but I really wasn't wowed by it. The limitations of the N64 were a factor. I would have preferred it to be released for the Nintendo 64 DD. Although I didn't always consider defining this game's prior to researching this month, that didn't matter when it came to Majora's Mask. In fact, what I know of Shigeru Miyamoto's original game, the difficulty level and tediousness and willingness to explore the original game seems more promising for me than in Ocarina of Time. I played it, it was popular, and there was hype, but I was never fully immersed or in awe. Limited resources can sometimes generate greatness, however. Super Mario 64 I didn't buy when it came out, but its repetitiveness, enjoyability, really reminded me of Majora's Mask. Reviewing Super Mario 64, Majora's Mask, and Ocarina of Time, I finally gave in and agreed with Matosis on the repetition theme. It's even mentioned in the Wikipedia how they didn't have a lot of space and just executed most out of the levels. However, I feel like if Super Mario 64, you can go back to the levels, whereas in Ocarina of Time, there doesn't seem to be much to do once you get one thing in a dungeon than going back as adult or kid Link. There are also other Nintendo 64 games that consider to be greater than Ocarina of Time, at least after watching the MatthewMatosis review and before replaying. Star Fox 64 is a classic shooter with 3D. It creates multiple paths and unlocks different characters, leading to possible alternate dimensions of a run loader run scenario. Pilot Wings was very interesting because of its replayability. Donkey Kong 64 has you use multiple characters to get different golden bananas in the stage. I even like Quest 64 because it's battling, and everyone's going to hate me because of that. Bomberman 64 has multiple gold cards you can collect in addition to costume pieces for customizable multiplayer Bombermen, as well as the epic plot twist if you complete a certain objective. Bombing mechanics for platforming. Memorable bosses, memorable characters. Mario Tennis was a really challenging game, exhausting and precise. Sometimes animation just craps out on you. Pokemon Snap was a first-person photographer-themed game, which is done very well because of its visuals and character design. The Nintendo 64 was a great end to the Nintendo home console cartridge era. The Ocarina of Time was better than Yoshi's Story, Mario Party, GoldenEye, and a lot of other games that were generic and not known for, however. That's the beginning of my review of MatthewMatosis' Ocarina of Time review.